So last time I asked 4 very good FMC solvers from across the world to do the same scramble and send the results back to me. Here are the solutions. So the first solution is from Alexandros Fokianos. It's 25 moves, but after that he sent to me his second solution, which is 20 moves, that I will show at the end of the video. And the second solution he just found after a 1 hour limit. So to start off, on the scramble, it's already the inverse of the scramble because he started his solution at inverse, and his solve is very interesting. He ended up doing the edge orientation on the right-left axis. On the beginning there are 8 unoriented edges. 4 of them are on the left side, so by doing L you can reduce the unoriented edges to 4. And that's what he did on the beginning. So L, it reduces this 4 edges, they are now oriented. And the next move he did was F, to set up this unoriented edge to the right side and to solve this pair. The next move was U, that solves this square and sets up the third unoriented edge also on the right side. And from this point on you could just do BR to finish the edge orientation, but instead he chose to do D prime to solve this pair, and at the end B prime, and that's 5 moves that did the partial EO and solved some blocks. And at this point he switched to the normal scramble. So here we are at the normal scramble. There are still 4 unoriented edges, 3 of them are here, and the 4th is here in the back. So you can just do 2 more moves to complete the edge orientation. D prime R, and the edges are oriented. It's pretty blocky, and it's a very good edge orientation because we already have dr minus 2e4c or 4e4c, however you want to call it. So basically it's cube in the dr state without 4 corners and 2 edges, and also 2 edges from the E layer. And what you want to do, you want to set up the cube to such a situation that you can do 1 move. So now it's a dr minus 4 corners, this 2 and this 2, and this 2 E layer edges and these 2 edges. And 1 move solves a dr, so that's what you want to do. And these pieces are already set up pretty well. So his next move was U prime, then F2, and he solved these 2 dr bars that you can use to do this move. So that's the one and that's the second. So U prime F2, the next move was R2 to move this bar to the bottom of the cube. These 2 edges are now facing the other way, so we can do U, D, and then at the end B prime to complete the domino reduction. So it took him 13 moves to get to the stage, but this dr is very good, it's pretty blocky, and what he noticed is that the cube is now only 3 moves away from HDR, from half turn reduction. And how you want to get to HDR is by there are many ways, but the most popular one is doing this setup move, U prime R2U, that switches these 2 bars of the colors that are not matching to the side of the cube. So there's the red bar on the green-blue face and the green-blue bar on the red face. So you can just do D prime F2D. Instead of doing D prime F2D or D prime, it doesn't matter. You could just do also do U prime R2U, but he figured out that D prime F2D in this case would work better. It just changes the place of 3 edges on the cube. So you can use this setup in 2 ways. So D prime F2D worked better for him, and it's HDR in 16 moves. So that's not bad, and from this point on he switched back to the inverse scramble. So that's the inverse of the cube, and I suppose he just played around with the cube with the pieces trying to find a finish or a good skeleton. And what he ended up doing was L2, that creates this 1x2x3 block. then F2 that creates the square, and the next move was U2 and it creates these two columns without one corner that he will attach to it in the next moves. So the next move is L2, then B2, and then D2 to attach all corners to the edges to create such columns, and R2, F2, R2 the last three moves in order to solve the cube. So it was 13 move domain reduction, a 16 move half turn reduction, and 9 more moves to get him a 25 move finish. So the second solution is from Cyprian Kalbarczyk. It's 24 moves, so one move shorter as the previous one. And he also started his solution on the inverse. And he also did the edge orientation on the right-left axis. So his first move was L' to reduce it to 4 bad edges to solve this 4 unoriented edges on the left side. And after that he switched back to the normal scramble. Alright, so that's the normal scramble. We have still 4 unoriented edges, 3 of them are here, the 4th is here in the back. So D' puts them all on the right face and R solves the edge orientation. And now he wanted to do the domain reduction. And in order to do the domain reduction, you want to have at least 4 corners oriented, and at the moment there are 3 of them are oriented, and at least 2 of the E layer edges on the E layer. So at this moment there's only one E layer edge on the E layer. So you want to do a single move, not F2 but for example F, that doesn't break the edge orientation and orients some of the corners. So for example doing F solves this corner, but there are now still 3 corners oriented. So U' sets up this corner, then doing F gives us 4 corners oriented, and there are now 2 E layer edges on the E layer. So now after this 5 moves he can solve the domain reduction. He noticed that this corner is already connected with this edge, and by doing L2 he can connect this corner to this edge. Then by doing D he can put these 2 corners on top of each other, and then B2 solves these 2 bars that you can use to do the domain reduction. The next move was R2, so he puts these 2 edges facing the other way. Then U, D to put it all on the back, and the last move was B'. So that's domain reduction in 12 moves. So 12 moves more to go. And now he noticed this pair, this edge, and he built a square. So U, R2. Then this corner and this edge, he built a pair. So D, L2, and then B2. That solves this 1 by 2 by 3, and it gets very blocky. So now he wanted to connect this corner to this pair. So D', L2, D', L2. And now his 3 moves to solve the cube. So U, F2, U. It's a linear finish from a 12 move domain reduction that was 12 moves long as well. And it gave him a 24 move finish. So the third solution is from Firstian Fushada, and he got 22 moves. And he also started his solution on the inverse and did the edge orientation on left and right axis. So his first move was L to reduce it to 4 bad edges, but now instead of switching to the normal scramble, he continued the edge orientation on the inverse. So there are now still 4 unoriented edges over here, 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 and here, these 4. So he set them up on the right face by doing F, U, and B. And now all 4 of them are on the right side, and the last move of the edge orientation was R'. And now he noticed that these 4 corners on the front of the cube are oriented, and 4 corners on the back of the cube are 1 move from being oriented. So he chose to do B', and now all of the corners are oriented. It's almost domain reduction, but there are only 2 edges missing. So from now on he switched back to the normal scramble. So that's the normal scramble, and he used a very interesting domain reduction trigger, which goes like that: F', R2, L2, and B. And these 2 E-layer edges have to be opposite of each other, and these 2 edges have to also face the other way. And you just have to do B or B', so B or B', and then R2, L2, and F, and then solves the domain reduction. So these 2 edges now aren't opposite of each other, so he did d2 to place them like that, f prime to put them like that, r2, l2, and at the end of the domino reduction b. So that gave him a domino reduction in 11 moves. And now he wanted to do the HTRD half turn reduction, and in order to do that he used this trigger, so u prime r2u, and you have to have 4 corners that are not matching to the side of the cube. So if this side is green, the corner is matching if the green sticker on it or the blue sticker on it is also facing the same way as the center. So for example, now this corner is matching, but this is not because it's orange, and now it would match. So you have to have 4 bad corners and 2 bad edges. It works the same way for edges, so green is matching to the red side. And on the scramble now we have only 2 bad edges, so this one, and 2 bad corners, these 2. So you want to have 4 bad corners, so you want to look for a single move that can give us 2 bad edges and 4 bad corners. So he did U, and now we have 4 bad corners, these 2, and this one got bad, and this one also got bad. So there are now 4 bad corners and still 2 bad edges, these 2. And now we can set up the pieces to this trigger that I showed before. So this line is almost completed, and this line is also almost completed. So now we can do B2 to complete this line, and then L2 to get this corner down here. And now we have 2 bars, and he chose to do U prime and B2 and U prime B2 U. He could have just done D prime R2D, but he chose to do U prime B2 U. And now he's only 1 move away from a good skeleton to E to E. So two edges that swap like that and 2 edges that swap like that. And he did the alk right here, so it cancelled 4 moves. So the last 2 moves were L2 and then U, so U L2. And the alk goes like L2, U2, B2, R2. So on the beginning it cancelled 3 moves, then F2, D2, R2, and B2, and this last B2 cancelled with the move from corner orientation from the inverse, so it's a 4th move that cancels, and it gave him a 22 move solution from 18 move to E2E skeleton. So the next solution is from Tommy Kiprillis. It's 20 moves long, and just like everyone else, he started his solution on the inverse to reduce the right-left edge orientation to 4 bad edges. And after that he switched back to the normal scramble. And now in order to finish the edge orientation, he set up the 4 bad edges to the right side and did the move R to finish the edge orientation. And the first 2 moves of the domino reduction were the same moves as Cyprian did, so U and F. And now we have dr minus 2e for C or 4e for C. Many people call it the other way, so I will just call it by the 2 names. He did the domino reduction slightly different than Cyprian did. He did U and D, and then B2 to connect this corner to this edge. And now, after doing D and R2, he sets these 2 edges up on the back side opposite of each other, but he doesn't have to move any of these bars to connect to these edges. It's already connected, so it's 1 move less. And the last move of the domino reduction, he chose to do B prime. And now he also did half turn reduction, but it's already 4 bad corners and 2 bad edges, so he doesn't have to do any setup moves. So this one blue bar is looking very nice on the right side, and the other bad pieces are this corner, and where is it? And this edge. So now he just did R2, and he created this orange red bar, and F2, and this green blue bar. So now we have 2 bars, and we can complete the half turn reduction by this 3 move trigger that I showed before. So D prime F2 D, And it's a very good half-turn reduction because we are only 4 moves away from solving the cube. So u2 to solve this 2x2x3, and then just f2, l2, f2, and the cube is fully solved in 20 moves. So now on to the last solution of the video is the second solution from Alexandros Fokianos, which is 20 moves, the solution he found after an hour passed. We are already at the normal scramble after the 7 moves, because the first 7 moves of this solution are the same as the first 7 moves of the original solution, except from that the last move of the edge orientation was B prime, and in this solution it was B. But he chose to do a different domino reduction setup this time, so he did u2 and then d prime, and then f2, and then d2 to move this corner to connect it with this edge, like that, and to move this layer edge to the back, and then r2, and the last move of the domino reduction was b, so it's also a 13 move domino reduction, and now he wanted to solve a 2x2x3 with this pair and this square, so he did u prime, r2, and then d prime, f2, and the 2x2x3 is solved. And now he noticed that it's only 3 moves away from solving the whole cube, so r2, u, and d prime, and very simple 7 move finish off of a 13 move domino reduction, which gave him a 20 move solution. So I hope that you learned something new from this video and you enjoyed watching it, so see you in the next one. Bye.